If you are an Israelite and you're trying to do anything of importance and have any type of a name, you will always have at least one Judas around you. Now, if you look at this is AD King to the far right, the mother in the middle, and MLK to the left. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but all three of those people were killed within 5 years. AD 15 months after the death of his beloved brother, Martin Luther King. So you have to ask yourself, is this all coincidence? Is there something deeper going on? Just 15 months after the Dr. King Jr. was assassinated, AD King died under suspicious circumstances. AD was extremely close to his brother, Martin. Following MK's assassination, AD's widow, Naomi King, revealed to Seattle Times that he never recovered because he felt it was his duty to protect his brother. Now, AD King was an excellent swimmer, and he was found in the bottom of his swimming pool after telling a reporter hours earlier that he was going to get to the bottom of what happened to his brother because he believed he was assassinated. Now, 4 years after that, Martin Luther King's mother was slain in church. They went into the church and killed this woman and killed somebody else. Now, tell me, is that a coincidence that three people from the same immediate family, one gets killed outright, one dies under mysterious circumstances, and the other one is killed at church? Alberta King, mother of late Reverend Martin Luther King, was shot and killed today as she played the organ for morning service. You coming up in the church and killing this lady? You just got to think about this. This is all devilish. And MLK was surrounded by many, many enemies. There was many enemies of MLK. The 70-year-old mother of the late Reverend Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader who was assassinated 6 years ago, was herself shot and killed today as she played the organ for the morning service into the Baptist church in the century of the Atlanta, Georgia. Now, come on, man. Let's get this right. Now, let's talk about some things that a lot of people skip past. Like the fact that AD was killed the same day they walked on the moon. That's why nobody knew about it. Just like the same day that they had to admit that they was pushing crack in the black communities is when that Bill Clinton thing came up with his secretary about them having sex and all that. This is all smoke and mirrors, but you can connect the dots if you lose your brain. Now let's talk about Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson is in fact the Judas in MLK's world. The original Judas. Now, I hate to say it, but he wasn't the only one. There was a couple of people surrounded by MLK, but Jesse Jackson was a CIA agent, and that's just the truth. Now, we're going to get into some of the suspicions that King's team had on Jesse Jackson. Now, here we go. Now, no matter what you think of Mr. King, he was trying to do something. Times article, Jesse Jackson aims for mainstream on April 4th, 1968. Dr. King was assassinated as he stood on the balcony outside the room of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. The gunshots set off a sequence of events that would drive a wedge between Jesse Jackson and many of Dr. King's followers. So they knew this then. Mr. Jackson was on the floor below when the shots rang out. He and several colleagues ran up to the balcony. After the fatally wounded Dr. King was taken to the hospital. Reporters converged on the motel, and Jesse was saying, "I was the last person in the world to speak to," recalls Reverend Hosea Williams, an Atlanta City Council member of former Kings Associated, who was also at the motel. "I saw blood on Jesse's shirt, and I know he had not been near Dr. King." That night, Mr. Jackson flew to Chicago. The next day, he had Donna Rose book him on 2 local television talk shows. He also appeared that morning on NBC's Today Show, wearing the same blood-stained turtleneck that he had worn the day before. He told reporters he was the last to talk to Dr. King, who died. He said he cradled him in his arms, but none of that is so, according to several of King's aides, who remained bitter about the incident and still asked why Mr. Jackson did not change his shirt. He was being propped up, man. He was to take over the movement, and that's what was going on with Mr. Jesse Jackson. And then you may ask yourself, well, we're going to get to this soon too. What was Jesse's reward? Just bear with me and tell me, how powerful is a group that can make a man's remembrance go away? Famed civil rights leader Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and many in his organization were leery of the upstart Jesse Jackson, who they saw as race-baiting and conflict-driven. In addition, everyone else at the SCLC was a minister. Jackson's unenthusiastic and short-lived attendance at seminary, made clear he was not interested in pastoring a flock, yet he found a way to work the system and put the Rev in front of his name. Surely worse, however, in Jackson's never-ending pursuit of self-promotion was the callous disregard of Dr. King's death. As Kenneth R. Timmerman, the author of Shakedown, Exposing the Real Jesse Jackson, wrote, King left Chicago profoundly suspicious of Jackson's state of self-promotion. No matter how hard Jackson may have worked to get in front of the line of the luminaries within the 1960 civil rights movement, he lacked one thing that King's closest confidants possessed. Jackson wasn't a man of the cloth. He wasn't a spiritual man. Dr. King told Jesse that everyone who worked in the movement was a minister, said Hurley Green, a former speechwriter, columnist, and friends of Jackson. So Jesse went to seminary for 6 months and dropped out and called himself a minister. Jackson's limited time spent at Chicago Theological Seminary was verified by Chaplain A. Knighton Stanley, who stated that Jackson was not committed to the church, nor had discovered a true vocation. Jackson had even failed to fulfill his required class on sermon writing and delivery that one would think would be important to someone truly interested in trying to, have a flock. But he wasn't interested in having a flock. He didn't have to learn how to do those speeches because he had his speeches written for him by the government. And this is his reward.
In 1984, I was a producer for NBC News, and I was assigned to cover Jesse Jackson's 1984 presidential campaign. Jackson's campaign was absolutely fascinating. It was really sort of on a wing and a prayer, just kind of cobbled together, but it was an amazing populist grassroots campaign. Without the internet, without Facebook, without even email, Jesse Jackson's campaign was organizing people in communities that had never voted. He was going around saying, you got to register to vote, you got to get on board, you got to register to ride, And he was trying to make a point that there are people who are disenfranchised, and those people need to be included, and their voices need to be heard. We were always late. This campaign was sort of ran on late time. We always arrived late because Jesse Jackson had so much to say. People wanted to touch him, and we would end up in a church late at night, packed to the gills, people outside looking in the windows, and the crowd would be getting excited, and then he would get up and he would often say, hands that once picked cotton will now pick a president. And you just knew that he was energizing people. He was making people feel that they had some stake in this American electorate, that they could make a difference.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservants, nor his maidservants, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's, including his name. And that's what Jesse wanted. He leapfrogged a lot of people that were supposed to take that place that Martin Luther King already set up to come after him. but he was helped. How did Jesse Jackson get on TV hours after his death? How did that take place? You slithery, slimy snake. Oh, you did all that at a chance to win the presidency. You thought you was going to be the president, and that's why you was crying when Obama got it. You jealous, slivery, snaky Judas. Run, Jesse, run. Run, Jesse, run. Run, Jesse. Because the devil is on your...
is always curious and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I said, we just talk preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together. Okay, you're not attention. What you fixing to hear now? At 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people